Welcome to A Girl's Guide to, the podcast designed to help generations of women enhance their minds, love their bodies, and heal their souls. I'm your host, Michaela, a girl navigating life and helping you do the same. I am so happy and grateful that you are here. Let's dive in. Hi, friends. Happy Monday, and welcome back to another episode of A Girl's Guide to. I have my guest here as usual, as I always do on Mondays. Today is my girl, Kaisey, and we are very excited to be bringing a very vulnerable chat to you guys today. Kaisey and I have both had some struggles in our childhood and our upbringing, some similarities that we shared there. And obviously, as you guys know, your childhood is such a major part in who you become as a young adult. And when you're discovering yourself, you're, at least in my experience, and I believe in Kaisey's too, you start to kind of question why you do the things that you do, or think the way that you think, or just why your life is how it is. And you start to realize that it all goes back to childhood. And when you have trauma in your childhood, as unfortunately many people deal with, it definitely makes it a bit challenging. So, Kaisey, hello, girl.
Hi,
I
Michaela.
I want to know about your trauma. Like, we're gonna just get right into it, real raw. I mean, obviously you share what you're open to sharing, but what was it for you that, obviously trauma looks so different for everybody. I can share a little bit of my story, but kind of share your story and what your childhood looked like.
So it wasn't the average, you know that. A few people know that. It
Hmm.
wasn't the average by any means. And I grew up I grew up in a single parent household. And I lost contact with my father. He walked out on us when I was about 5. And he went with my mom to drop me off my first day of kindergarten, and then I did not see him again. He stole everything that we had, for whatever habits he had had at the time,
Hmm.
and that was it. So I never really got an answer. I just remember staring out the window in my kindergarten class and just seeing him walk off, not knowing that that would be the last time that I would see his face for a very, very long time. So I guess it kind of rooted there.
Hmm.
And that's when like the whole like daddy issues thing, it's very real. That's and I don't give a fuck to sugarcoat it or whatever.
Yeah.
That's real. That's me. I have those. I own
Mhm.
those. And then we just grow from them. But
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. I thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Um, and for my story, I mean, I feel like I've definitely shared a bit here and there, but for those who might not know, obviously, Kaisey, we've talked about it a lot. And I believe you have some of this in your family, addiction, right? Addiction
Yes.
is definitely a struggle in a lot of families. My mom, actually, who is the recovering addict in our family, she's going back to school right now to get a certificate that I actually, Kaisey, funny enough, believe that you have the same. Is it a certificate? Am I correct in
It's
saying
a certificate. Yeah.
that? Okay. And what is it for? Sorry, I know you're like taking a sip of your
No, it's
tea.
okay.
Love that, by the way.
So it's just for substance abuse counseling, and it's an amazing program and amazing staff, and you learn just so much the ins and outs of everything. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
that's awesome. And so you have the certificate. My mom is currently in the process of getting, she literally just started school, but the whole point of me mentioning that is just to say that she's learning about how I hate to say popular, maybe common addiction is among families, just among people. So our family generationally has struggled with alcohol, which is a huge part of why I live a sober life, as you guys probably know by now. But yeah, so my childhood was just, a lot of moments of my mom being a functioning alcoholic, but not herself, obviously, under the influence of alcohol quite often, quite frequently. She got sober, and then, well, my dogs are going crazy. I don't know if you'll be able to hear that, but we're just gonna keep it rolling. Or we wait, maybe we wait because they're good. They're keeping at it. Somebody's here, that's why. See, this is a whole thing of something that I need to mention about trauma and living at home. But anyway, just to give a brief rundown of my childhood, it was just, you know, I mean, it's hard to summarize it, right? Because there's trauma holds such a heavy weight and there's so much to somebody's story. But yeah, my mom was just an alcoholic and we struggled. The relationship she had with my father's reaction to how my mom was a big part of it. My mom wasn't the only one. I was raised by two parents. I had a mom and a dad. So they were both I in my eyes held responsible or accountable in some ways, their actions and behaviors and whatnot, for how I am now. Good and bad, right? Not to say that they were terrible parents and I'm like a shitty person because of them, but just things that I had to unlearn because of those traumas. A lot of animosity in the house, a lot of failed communication, a lot of mistrust, just all the things that you face when unfortunately you're living with somebody who has an addiction of any kind. It affects everybody in the family. But Kaisey, yes, your family has struggled with addiction as well. And how, I mean, if you want to paint a picture of what that looked like for you as a kid and where you're at now, I guess.
Yeah, so I mean, in the beginning, with my dad, I remember a lot of things vividly. He was very abusive,
Mm,
towards me and my mom. So that's some trauma there. And, he would forget me at bars and
mm,
he'd bring me when he was watching me, and literally the prostitute that he was with that evening would have to return me to my mom.
wow.
So it's just very
That's
being
like
left
just like,
behind,
yeah. And that
you
I can
know?
imagine is just like the surface of it too. Like that's crazy. I didn't know that at all.
Mhm. So it's just, it would happen, every day. He was also like functioning alcoholic. He'd
Yeah.
work, he had his shit together, put together, at least, that mask that,
Yeah.
some people have to wear.
Hmm.
And going through that, it's just,
Yeah.
you wonder why at such a young age, like why you couldn't be remembered. Like, just get me from the fucking bar. Like, just get me out of the stool.
Mm,
Like, I'm
mm,
sitting here. Like, I'm 4 and 5 years old. You know what I mean? I'm
right.
just sitting there. Um, so then, like, we lost contact, and I didn't have the best relationship with I have a horrible relationship with my mother. So
Right.
she was sort of a closet alcoholic as well. So I would go through the cupboards to get cereal, and there would be nips on nips on nips in there, or we would go into the liquor store together, and I used to just think that was totally normal. Like, oh my god, I love the
Right.
smell in here. Like, what the hell?
Right. At
And
such a young age.
she remarries she remarries an alcoholic. So it's just like
Mm,
this big circle, and it's so fucking exhausting.
mm,
And I've tried to play savior and, oh, let's fix this,
right.
for so long, and I'm tired,
Yeah.
and I understand and I have empathy, but it's just, there comes a point where you just have to just take people for who they are, hope they're able to change,
Mm,
and if not, then that's not on me. I did what I could do. So
mm,
it's just been addiction in every phase of my life. Now that I'm thinking about it, there hasn't been one phase of my life where I haven't made any interactions with people that I love
mm,
that aren't addicted to a substance. So
mm.
it's really shitty, as you know. You
Of
know what I
course.
mean? So,
Of
yeah.
course. But I love that you're coming to a point of realizing that it's not your responsibility. I got to that point last year. So I wanted to actually clarify that my mom is sober. She actually just celebrated 1 year, which is so wonderful. She previously was sober for, I want to say, about 6 years when I was a bit younger. And then around COVID, a little bit before COVID. She had a relapse, and then just the last few years, it's been back and forth. But this last year, she has just completely changed her life. But so things look a lot different now, and I'm very grateful for that, especially hearing your story, Kaisey. And I obviously feel for you and anybody who is still facing these circumstances, because I am just now at a point, even here we are a year later where my mom's been sober.
Mhm.
I'm just now at a point where I feel like I can let my guard down a bit and I can actually kind of live this life for me and not, you know, to protect my siblings from my parents fighting, or to check in on my mom and go through her car or her closet or things like that. I finally feel like that flight or fight response is just kind of gone, and I'm just like at peace, which is so beautiful, and I wish that for everybody. But I guess that's kind of why I wanted to talk about this today, to kind of just share the things that are somewhat of a positive in dark times like this, because as much as it's been such a terrible part of my life, obviously, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh yeah, I had a great childhood. Like, I had wonderful
Right.
moments, and I have wonderful memories, and I always express to my family and my parents that I'm so grateful, but it was also it was a challenge. But there are things that I've learned because of that, and I wouldn't take it back. I wouldn't change it for even
Mhm.
as hard as it was. Because I do believe that it obviously, just like anybody else's upbringing, if you had more of like a cushy upbringing, or just, I mean, I want to be careful when I say that, but I know everybody has their own struggles. I'm just saying that different circumstances result in different, I guess, reactions, or I'm not sure what I'm trying to say here. I guess, it's just everything happened for a reason. I went through it
Mhm.
for whatever reason I went through. It's made me who I am today. I've learned a lot from it, but I'm also learning now that it's actually causing like a lot of just weird thoughts, I guess, for myself and like in my own life. For example, like how I mentioned earlier, that there was some mistrust in the house. Obviously, a lot of mistrust. I mean, if you grew up with an addict, an addict. Mistrust is a huge part of that.
Mhm.
And I've found like I that mistrust was placed upon me at sometimes. It was, kind of reflected back, and I find sometimes I don't trust myself now in certain
Right.
situations. And I have to like go back and I'm like, well, why is that the case though? Like, what have I
Mhm.
done to not trust myself? And a lot of times these answers are not necessarily that I'm doing anything. It's just my way of thinking because of the way that I grew up.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, what are some things for you that like you've specifically noticed have been challenging, and maybe especially like in your 20s, right? um Based on how you grew up and having that trauma, like what are some things that have really been challenging for you?
So, like, not even with the addiction piece, we'll just like the abandonment piece together.
Yeah.
Um, so I always, and I know this is super common, and sometimes people don't realize where these feelings could be coming from. So what I'll do is, because I'm a human being
Mm,
and shit happens, I push everybody away so they
mm,
don't have the opportunity to hurt me. I
mm,
would rather push as far as I can to completely miss the opportunity of me having my heart broken, whether that's a friendship, whether that's a relationship. Like, fuck, I do it to Nick. I think in my
mm,
head, wow, my dad, I clearly wasn't good enough for him to stay. So why the fuck is he still here?
mm.
So I push and I push and I push and I try all of the buttons, and Nick won't budge. So
Right.
it's just never ever. But it's like, you push to protect yourself. You
Right.
push to just, you don't want to get hurt. You don't want to get hurt. I can't. Now I'm growing out of that mindset, because if I realize, one of these days I am gonna push and somebody's actually gonna go away.
Hmm.
Um, and that would fucking suck. But, even And it's so silly, but it is what it is. Like, even seeing dads with their daughters,
Yeah.
um, at recitals or at soccer games or whatever, and he'd call me
Mm,
and he'd be like, "Oh, I'll be there, I promise." And, that's the first thing that you look for. I would always
mm,
look for him, and then all I would see is, my mom with her fucking disposable camera just staring there, like, cheering me on, but you could see the hurt
right.
in her eyes too.
Yeah.
Um, and, like, growing up with the abandonment thing and, like, the daddy issues, it's like
Right.
you look for validation from men, and I did this a lot when I was young, and some people can find it disgusting. Truthfully, it is what it is. It
Yeah.
happens.
It
It triggers
happens.
something in your brain.
Hmm.
Um, so you have sex with people that you may not even be attracted to feel some kind of validity in
Mm,
in your heart. Oh, maybe this person will actually love me. Maybe they'll care for me. Maybe they'll, and you just have meaningless, pointless interactions with men, and then you sit with it, and then you realize that they treat you like shit, right? They talk to you when they want to have sex with you,
yeah.
and that's all you're used for, and then you're disposed of. So the feeling is familiar, right? Just being completely and utterly disposable. So I'm like, oh well, I can, this is just so fucking common for me. um so then you kind of use it to numb yourself, like, I deserve this, I deserve this treatment from men. My
Mm,
dad left, I don't deserve anybody to be kind to me,
yeah.
especially a male. So I've been through a series of abusive relationships where I thought
Mm,
hitting is normal, um, hurting me is normal, and that's okay. And I would stay with these people and just be a fucking robot because
yeah.
that's all I knew. So it takes so much inner work to come out of that and to realize, like, I'm in this pattern and I'm abusing myself. I'm allowing these people to abuse me because I think, wow, this is just how life is supposed to be. I watched it happen to my mom. I
Mm,
felt it happen to me on several occasions, more than several. And it becomes normalcy. It becomes comfortable. It becomes,
right.
you know, that this is my
That's just
standard.
life. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so proud of you for raising those fucking standards, okay?
Thank
And
you.
recognizing your worth. And I know that it's still a battle. I mean, we all struggle with even anything. I think at any time that you overcome something, it's a continuous, you're choosing every day to not go back to those bad, not bad habits, but just those old patterns, right?
Right.
So you choose every day to do your best to know your worth and live this beautiful life that you now have with Nick and Amelia, and just living the life that you deserve. So I'm so proud of you. And
Thank you.
I wanted to share a little bit about one thing that I have been struggling with. Gratefully, I can't relate in the sense of my dad being absent,
Hmm.
but I can relate to or yeah, I guess I can relate to just the having rough relationships, with your parents growing up. And now living at home, I've found that it's really challenging to grow up, not just like literally, but mentally grow up
Yep.
in a space that an old version that of me and an old life that I want to like in some form die. Like it's
Right.
so hard to grow up in that space. And like that's not to
Mhm.
say that I don't love this home. I've lived in this home for 18 years. It has a lot of meaning to me, a lot of great memories here. But as a young woman who has also experienced a lot of trauma in these four walls, it's like, damn, like I need to get out. And I guess I kind of wanted to look to you and ask you your opinion on that, being somebody who now does have your own space. I know actually that your home is such a safe space for you. And yeah, I guess just I'm definitely looking forward to the day that that happens. I know that now
Mhm.
because things are better at home and I do enjoy being here and definitely taking advantage of living at home and being able to figure out my life while my parents, yeah, support me in so many ways. But definitely looking forward to the moment that I'll be able to move out, and I feel like then I'll really be able to expand, really be able to be with myself and heal and just grow in more ways than I can here. So
Mhm.
how have you experienced that, now living on your own, and like what, I guess, maybe any advice to anyone like myself or any other girl who feels that way of like, wanting to get out, like some encouragement of like just
Oh, yeah. Of course, of course. So, I'm living in my house, right? I'll paint the picture. And, living in my house, my mom is just always been just the verbally and physically aggressive, abusive type. So
Mhm,
then I have that. Then I have my stepdad who was clean and sober.
mhm,
And then it just completely just fell off.
yeah,
So I realized that waking up every day wondering if I was going, even at, like 25, 26 years old, like that's insane.
yeah,
Wondering, am I going to be talked down to today? Am I going
yeah,
to have to go pick my stepdad up off the street today because he
mm,
passed out drunk? Am I going to have to A B C D E F G?
right,
I had no business moving out. I did in the case of, dealing with abuse in A B C D E F G. Was I ready financially? Absolutely the fuck not.
yeah,
Um but like, and you're gonna be broke, and that's fine.
yeah,
You can be financially in a mess. You can be financially stable. You're gonna move into your own place, and like me, you're gonna buy a ton of shit for it, perhaps things that you don't need. It's fine. It's a part of the
yeah,
process.
yeah,
Um, but even when we didn't have a kitchen table, we didn't have a fucking bed frame. We were sleeping on a mattress. Like the moment I stepped foot in here,
mm,
I just could breathe.
right,
Your house now that, your mom is in recovery and doing fucking amazing, and your
yeah,
family dynamic is better. That's amazing. But always in the back of your mind, you're going to remember what happened there, whether you
oh,
want to or not. You know what I
absolutely.
mean?
It's funny you say that because sometimes it happens subconsciously. My
Mhm.
sister and I have both experienced it. It's very interesting, and it's just like why I'm so into like brain body stuff, because literally I there have been times where we'll come home and a certain way that my mom will be sitting, or a certain way she says hi when you walk in, it's just something about her, it's an immediate trigger, and your body just goes, oh my god, she drank today. And I'm
Mhm.
just immediately transported back to childhood me coming home from school and having those, reactions. And it doesn't happen often now because I've she's gained my trust back, essentially, is what it
Right.
is, right? But yeah, it's so interesting. You just have those triggers always. And like you said, even though it's better now, it still happens. It still comes up. It's still, you know, I'm in my room where things happened that, I'm not 100% comfortable sharing, but
Mhm.
things that I shouldn't have gone through that
Yeah.
I can't escape until I actually leave. Like, and
Right.
even then it still is with me
Of
always.
course.
But it's like it would definitely be easier to move past those things. And I, not to say that I dwell on them either,
Mhm.
but I think that you, like you said, your trauma is, I mean, it's a part of you, as we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
It shapes you. So it's always going to
Right.
be with you. So I think, you know, it's definitely a what's the word I'm looking for? It's a gift, but there's another word I'm looking for, to be able to move out and to have your own space. It's
Yeah.
definitely something that, especially nowadays with just the market and being a young person in the
Mhm.
economy, like it's not very easy. So, um
No.
I think a lot of people, we strive for that. We strive to move out because we know that when we do, we're going to have these breakthroughs like you're experiencing. But
Mhm.
until then, I think for me, what I'm working on, because obviously I have these goals, I'm working towards these goals, but I don't love the word realistic because I'm obviously super woo woo. So I don't entirely believe in realistic things, but
Mhm.
I think that are ways to be responsible, maybe.
Absolutely.
Set yourself up for success. So instead of rushing into moving out when I have it good here and I can take that, use it to my advantage and work with what I have, instead of wishing that I wasn't here, I can work through the feelings that I'm feeling
Hmm.
now and actually become stronger because of it. And I look at that
Absolutely.
as a positive thing, right? Even though I had these negative times in my life and these challenges, and they're causing more challenges now, being here is kind of forcing me to work through it, which is
Right.
it's really cool, but it's a lot of unlearning, right? And
Right.
whoever listens to every episode is probably like this bitch and her unlearning, because I feel like I use that word every episode, but because that's kind of the chapter of life that I'm in, and I know that
Hmm.
we've had some conversations off camera about that. Just like right now, it's just a season of unlearning old patterns and thoughts and beliefs and words and actions, and just recreating this new version of yourself and not being kind of bound and held back by those traumas. But
Yeah.
it's a process. Damn, is it a process? And do you have some ways that you love to work through these shifts?
So I definitely try to stay in tune with myself. Also, to answer your question before, you, for me, you can move out anytime you want. I think you're more
Mm,
than capable. I think anybody is more than capable of doing anything they want to do that will make their soul truly happy and at peace.
mm,
I think
okay.
anybody who decides to stay in a home, maybe there's some trauma in it and whatever, I think that's incredibly fucking amazing and strong and beautiful that you're willing to sit with it. And not only sit with it, you're willing to reflect back on it and be like, holy fuck, like I have grown so much from
Mm,
this time to this time, and maybe I can just withstand this a
yeah,
little bit longer, and when I feel a little bit better, I'll be able to go and do my own thing.
yeah,
I think it's beautiful that you're strong enough, but do I think you can move out now? Absolutely.
yeah. No,
Decorate your apartment all cute.
I
Like,
I
come on.
agree. I agree. And there's definitely more to it that's holding me back. It's not just trauma. It's actually,
Yeah.
the love and happiness I feel here. That's
Yeah.
also part of what's keeping me here. But I love that perspective and I agree. But we actually are gonna have to start wrapping up. So if you want to just share some things that you are currently using as tools to help you work through the trauma and go through this unlearning process, and some advice to the girlies on what they can do too.
Tools. Go to therapy. It's not weird.
Mm,
It'll never be weird. Go to therapy, talk it out. Get some friends that have a good listening ear that you can
mm,
talk to and also that they can talk to you. You need that support system.
yep.
Your family, if you have great family, vent to them. If you don't, look inward. Write it down,
Mm,
run and run and run and get all of that out. Go to
yep.
nowhere, scream in your car. You
Yep.
know, I do Reiki. You
Yep.
know, I do that yoga shit. In tune with yourself, align
Mhm,
yourself, wake up, set your intention. Today's going to be a great day. I'm
yep.
going to heal. That's
Mhm,
it. You read up on it, you do the inner work. The inner
yep.
work is so fucking important, and
Mhm,
that is the key, is healing the little girl or little boy
mhm,
inside of you, and
mhm,
eventually you'll become whole again. And
mhm.
that's, I'm not there,
Yeah.
but I'm on my way there, and that's all that matters to me. So take the time for you, even if you're like, oh, I don't deserve this, this is ridiculous. You deserve everything and more that this world has to offer you.
Mm.
um Speaking to you too directly, ma'am,
Yes.
you deserve
I know you're
everything and
talking to all
more
of us. I know,
that
I
this
know.
world has to offer you. You are, this podcast, everything that you're fucking doing for women and these soul sisters and all of this shit, like, it's needed. It's needed right now. It's been needed always, but this is the now, and you're doing it, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
But anyway, heal
No.
you. It starts with you.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. No, this has been amazing, and I appreciate you being vulnerable and opening up and sharing. And I know if it wasn't for the 40-minute cap on Zoom and not wanting to, put out the longest podcast episode ever, we could keep going, but we'll definitely have to do a part 2 on this because like I said earlier, our stories, can't just be summed up in one little chat. But I also appreciate what you had mentioned earlier about me sitting with the trauma. I never, I guess, considered that that was brave. And you kind of gave me a little bit of some perspective and some kudos, I feel
Aw.
like, to myself. So I appreciate that. And I actually really encourage other people to sit with it because I think that's part of how you're going to heal. It's part of how you're going to feel whole. You have to sit with it. You have to actually realize what it was that you went through, and learn from it in some way, grow from it. And it might be ugly to face it. I've had a lot of tearful nights, a lot of crazy journaling sessions, a lot of vent sessions. I think it's important to communicate to the people in your past who hurt you. It's something I'm definitely working on with my parents, is as I grow, kind of just asking them for that respect, or not necessarily asking, but kind of just expecting that, as my parents, they want my respect. And as a young adult who's, yes, they're a child, but still a person, their respect in my healing journey, and just having conversation with each other. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now, what I encourage other people to do. And yeah, just give yourself grace and patience, right?
Mhm.
And other people too. That's something else that I want to say is, um it can be so hard to look at your parent, your partner, your family member, friend, whoever that has caused this hurt in your life. It can be so hard to look at them and have some sort of sympathy, or to look at them as another person, or to be patient with them in their healing journey if they're still not sober or whatever. But I think that it's important to have love for them and to be patient with them as well. And that's something that I've definitely been practicing with my mom, is looking at her as just a person. Yes, she's my mom, but she was a person before she was my mom. And
Mhm.
she's a person now. And she deserves my love for everything good that she's done for me. So yeah, I don't know, that was kind of a little off topic, but I just think the whole point is just to say that trauma is, it everybody goes through trauma in some ways,
Yep.
right? Your mom, your dad, my mom, my dad, the ways they reacted, the reasons why they did the things they did, it
Mhm.
goes back to their childhood too. So, in all reality, it's just this generational cycle that hopefully, as we continue growing and learning from the past, we can do better and we can break these generational curses. So
It
that's,
ends with us. That's it. It's done.
yeah,
That's
I
it.
agree.
It
I'm getting like
yeah.
all emotional all of a sudden.
Stop.
This conversation has meant a lot to me. I'm happy that we did this. So thank you for sharing. This holds a very obviously special place in my heart for a lot of reasons. It's very personal, but I want, this is part of the podcast, right? This is the part that's
Yep.
important. And I mean, all of it's important, but this is what we're here for. This is why we're doing this. So yeah, we're gonna wrap up. Kaisey, where can the girls find you?
You can find me on Instagram. I'm a photographer, whatever.
Yeah, or
Um,
whatever. Yeah, we kind of forgot. We just got right into trauma dumping that we didn't even do an intro, but you can check her out for sure. Yeah, what's your Instagram?
so I think it's a Casey, yeah, Casey Miracle Photo. Check it
Yes.
out. I'm coming back in slowly but surely, so I'm
Yes.
ready to get into it. Yes.
So much fun. Kaisey and I have the best time at our photo shoots. We did a
Mhm.
Valentine one a couple weekends, or last weekend, I think it was, and I'll be posting those. Well, actually, this episode's gonna come out after Valentine's, so never mind. Your girl's just on her batching shit real quick, so it's like, but anyway, yes, thank you, Kaisey, for coming on today and sharing and being vulnerable and just being you. And I'm proud of you for where you're at. And I know that you're going to continue to just move mountains in your healing journey and evolve into new versions of yourself. So, everything you said to me, you got to listen to yourself, girl. Okay.
Mhm.
And we got this we got this together, just like you said, that support system. So I'm grateful for girls like you in my life, grateful for this community. And please share this with a friend, guys. If somebody in your life, if you think that they could really hear this message and take something away, or if you were able to relate to it in some way, I always love to hear from you guys. So definitely let us know. And yeah, I'll be seeing you again on Friday for another episode of A Girl's Guide 2.